Hello, and welcome to the Age of AI, our series covering the rapid evolution of the AI landscape, exploring what's now, what's next, and how that impacts the world of business, the workplace, individuals, and the world. I'm your host, Shelly Kramer, Principal Analyst here at Kramer&Co. Today, we are going to talk about getting to the ROI of enterprise AI, which I think it's fairly safe to say is a topic that's pretty top of mind for just about every organization today. I'm joined for a deep dive on this topic by Luke Behnke, who's the head of product for Grammarly. And Luke has been playing, I think that it's safe to say here that Luke has been pretty singularly focused on being able to deliver on the ROI issue for Grammarly's enterprise customers for some time now. Luke, welcome. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I love this topic. I know you do too. I know you live and breathe it. So for starters, let's set the stage here. I think we can all agree that businesses run on communication. In fact, some research that you've done, I know, shows that a whopping 88% of our work week is spent communicating with others, both inside an organization and outside an organization, and of course, across multiple channels. Sales, marketing, customer service, HR, PR. I mean, that's just a tip of the iceberg. But, every part of today's enterprise relies on communication in myriad ways. So it's no surprise that best-in-class enterprise organizations are doubling down on their investments in effective communication. But quantifying the impact that AI tools have on business outcomes has been really challenging until now. And I know that Grammarly's effective communication score and ROI report were developed to help measure and connect the value of communication to meaningful business outcomes. And Luke, you ready to dive in?
I am. Let's do it.
I love it. Okay, for starters, I'd love if you'd talk with me. Walk me through, if you would, a little bit about your career backstory and your journey.
Sure. Yeah, I started actually as an engineer many years ago. Moved out to the Bay Area and actually San Carlos in the peninsula, and just fell in love with becoming with software and what was possible in the first kind of mobile revolution that was happening in the early 2000s, and the cloud revolution that was happening as well. And now we're in another one of those, of course, with the AI revolution. Although companies like Grammarly have been doing AI for a long time. Of course, we have a lot more tools in our tool belt now, but it's been fun for the last 20 years to work on a bunch of different technologies. I worked at a few startups, one in the real estate space, early to putting real estate listings on the web, another one in the cloud storage space. And then I worked at Zendesk, a customer support software company, for a number of years while they made the jump from being a kind of a single product company, building an email help desk, to building this whole suite of CRM products for customers. And we brought a ton of kind of what I would call first gen AI capabilities in to help automate a lot of what was happening in the customer support process. And that really got me to see what AI can do. And of course, at the time, it wasn't always that accurate. We still have some of those problems today, but it is amazing to see how far we've come. And then recently, before joining Grammarly, I just joined about a year ago, but before that, I was at a company called Ironclad, building contract lifecycle management software for legal teams and sales teams and procurement teams. And the confluence of AI and legal, it's super interesting. It's such a space where AI can really help, rethink how you are drafting contracts, what a lawyer is doing every day versus an individual on the sales team. So it's just, my whole career has kind of been spent in kind of enterprise software companies at the confluence of the human, user experience with kind of AI. And we just have so many more AI tools now at our fingertips. And so it's been exciting to join Grammarly and really have an opportunity to deploy those at scale.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you, I've been immersed in this industry for a while, and, we've watched the evolution of, when the web was, you use the internet to send email, right? And we watched the evolution of that, and then cloud computing and the growth of that, mobile, all of that. And it is super exciting to be here. And, to your point, AI isn't new. AI has been around for a long time, but the kind of AI and the generative AI capabilities that we're seeing today, it is really mind-blowing, I think, to see what's now, to see what's ahead. And I think it's just wonderful to be a part of this industry right now and be a part of this evolution, especially as, people like you and I who are deeply immersed in this space, we bring some knowledge and expertise, and being able to kind of communicate that to the masses and how this changes the employee experience or how this changes customer experience and that sort of thing. To me, it's a really cool part of what it is I get to do. And, tech nerds are going to nerd, right?
Yep. No, I agree. And we're at such an interesting point where I think we all feel like, big changes to the way that we all work, right? You
Right.
said it, 88% of our day is spent communicating. We have this massive proliferation of apps. The average
Yeah.
enterprise IT organization manages something like 250 different applications.
Right.
Each one of those actually has become a communication app. We have comment boxes in every app that we work in. We now have so many different inboxes that we are managing. I think people generally are feeling, particularly, in sort of the post-COVID, as work has continued to move more remote, they're just feeling this overwhelm of, it's just not working like it could. It's gotten harder,
Yeah.
more fragmented, more difficult for me to sort of manage my day-to-day tasks. And I think we all believe AI is going to come in and do a lot to help that problem, but we are very much in the messy middle at the
Yeah.
moment, where you can start to see it. I think we all feel that first time you used, a generative AI tool and saw what it could do. We can see there is such a new set of possibilities on the
Right.
horizon, but it still isn't here yet. And that's where I think ROI becomes really interesting, asking, well, are we actually getting value from these tools or not? And I think that's just a reflection of this very early, exciting, but also kind of confusing time that we're all
Right.
in this AI revolution.
Well, and I think that this is a very common trajectory. And I think back to the early days of social, for example. And, social media really changed a lot about how we communicate. It became a primary content distribution channel. It became a channel in which you engage with customers and prospects and that sort of thing. And it was really a game changer in so many ways. But social started to become a thing. And then it wasn't until, we had immersion and adoption and critical mass usage and that sort of thing, when people started stepping back and going, now, how about ROI? How do we measure that?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are now on the ROI front as it relates to AI, and so that's why I've been so looking forward to this conversation. So let's talk a little bit, if you will, about the importance of effective communication. So I know that you and the Grammarly team have done research. We talked about this a little bit. The study, the 2024 State of Business Communication report, is something that you all came out with last year. Will you walk me through a bit of the highlights that you learned from that research?
Yeah, so that 88% of our day stat came from that
Right.
report, which we did through with a third party firm that we looked at hundreds of different organizations and how they're communicating and what are the patterns and what are we seeing. We did a mix of looking at data as well as a lot of interviews, and the things that we learned are we spend most of our day communicating. We do it across so many different applications. And what we also learned is that companies don't really know, like, are we good at communicating as an organization? Like, every company has their unique culture. They have their norms. You join a company and you kind of figure it out pretty quickly. But when you ask leaders, like, how effective is your communication? How good are you at asynchronous communication, at synchronous communication? How good are you at passing information down from the
Right.
top to your employees, or side to side or up? How good are you at getting information directly from the ground? A lot of leaders say, I have no idea. I have
Yeah.
no idea how good I am at communicating relative to my peers. I don't know how I could improve. Most of the way that they think they can improve is to add another tool into the mix. Like, oh, well, if we just had, email was a challenge, so we added in an instant messaging, tool that now that will solve our problems. And now we just have two inboxes or more that we have to look
Mhm.
at each day. But are we actually using these tools effectively?
Yeah.
And are we getting the most out of our 88% of our day when we're spent communicating? And I think what I took most from that report is just not a lot of executives and leaders know how to answer the question of, is my organization effectively communicating? And it's obviously a very
Right.
hard problem, but we believe it's one that can begin to be measured, and one that companies can focus on. And instead of adding that 251st app, another surface for communicating,
Right.
you could actually improve your communication sort of across the apps that you have today, and think about the problem in a different way. And that's really what we've been doing at Grammarly for the better part of the last 15 years, but
Yeah.
particularly over the last few years as we've seen a lot of success in the enterprise.
And I don't think that we need to try to convince people about how important communication is. But let me just say, as someone who is a language lover and a word nerd, and somebody who's spent my whole life writing, and I'm pretty good at it, um, I have been known to make a decision about a vendor partner, somebody who's trying to sell me something, somebody who wants me to hire them, somebody who wants me to partner with them based upon their written communication skills.
Mm,
And I don't mean a resume. I mean,
yep.
what does your email sound like? And the reality of it is, many people, including business leaders, are not great writers, and that's
Yeah.
okay. I mean, we all bring our own strengths to the table, right? I mean, again, I've spent my whole career writing. I should be good at it, but I think that, and then I think back to when you were talking. I was thinking back to probably in the last decade. I've had teams of people working with me through the years, and have a couple people in particular who were a little bit younger and who were just super, super great employees and so willing to learn and take on new things and everything else. But both of them really were challenged when it came to writing. And what I used to say to them all the time was, you need to tell the story. Let me
Mm,
show you the difference between how you're telling your story and how I would tell the story. And I'm talking just about in outreach to a customer, or responding to an inquiry or something like that. And what I would do, this is pre-Grammarly, what I would help these employees do is I would rewrite their communication, their email, and I would
mm,
show them, compare what I wrote to what you wrote. And
interesting.
by doing this and mentoring them in this way, I made them into communication powerhouses. Well,
Yeah.
today technology exists and not only do I not have the time to do that anymore, but the reality of it is, again, I think that communication is critically important to an organization. It impacts everything about your brand identity, your reputation, your ability to close deals, serve customers, recruit and retain employees. I mean, so many things. So I think that,
Yeah.
I think it really is incredibly important. So talk with me a little bit about customers and what you're hearing from them about business communications and the challenges they face.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love the story you just gave. When you think about Grammarly, the first sort of use case that we've served for 15 years, what really put us on the map, was really building confidence with the average person who doesn't consider themselves to be an eloquent writer, but giving you confidence that you're not going to, basic things like spell something wrong or use
Right.
improper punctuation, but even over the years, it's gotten much, much more advanced to really say, actually, this sentence structure is better, or
Yeah.
more advanced suggestions, like you could make this a lot more clear, or you could even make this a lot shorter, and get to the point sooner. And so we've really kind of elevated from this grammar error correction tool to really this like strategic writing partner,
Right.
who helps you right now from start to finish. LLMs, generative AI has added a whole new set of capabilities around, what, I have a bunch of ideas, I have an outline, but I just can't get the words down on paper. And it turns out, in my nearly a year here, I've spent a lot of time with a lot of our individual customers and enterprise customers. And most people actually don't feel like they're a great communicator. But to your point, it
Yeah.
shows up when you're doing business. If
Yeah.
you're on a customer support team, particularly, say if English is not your first language, and
Right.
you're out there trying to respond to customers on live chat in real time, and you want to put your best foot forward individually and for your company, having that assistant not just make sure the words are correct, but also help you really get your point across in as few words as possible and in the most engaging way. To your point about
Yeah.
storytelling, we've all seen like someone come and present something, and the one who just presents a bunch of slides and a bunch of facts versus the one that helps you identify how to tell this story in a different way, how to engage your audience. We
Yeah.
can do so much more now with that. And so what we've seen from our enterprise customers is really deploying Grammarly as this tool. It works everywhere. It's not confined to, the Microsoft cloud or the Google cloud or one particular walled garden. It works in 500,000 different apps and websites, and it just is there with you while you're writing. It's from a blank screen all the way through. I've written an entire thing, and I just want to make it better. I also want that confidence, before I push send on that email.
Yeah.
And what we've really seen with our enterprise customers is they almost see it as a tool that's almost like a learning and development tool for their employees. Their
Yeah.
employees actually really, once they start using Grammarly, they have a very hard time living without it.
Yeah.
It becomes a critical part of their workflow. It integrates into their workflow as well, which is really interesting. And so I just think, again, getting back to that theme that I brought up at the start of integrating
Yeah.
this technology with your daily life, it's just been such a fun thing to be a part of as a product person, sort of see how people use our product every day, and it just helps them kind of get the things they were doing before, but maybe 20% better than they were that they were doing prior to Grammarly.
You just get so accustomed to having that assist that you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
It's just a part of your life. And I tell this story all the time. I truly thought that I in no way needed Grammarly. And I'm a good writer. Again, I've spent my whole life communicating and teaching other people to communicate and writing copy for clients and everything else. And then I started using Grammarly, and I still am amazed on a daily basis. I really needed that. Yep, that edit was better. That made what I was trying to accomplish more clear. You know what I'm saying? So it proves itself to me on a regular basis, and I
Yeah.
love that. I love being able to tell the story that I was a Grammarly doubter until you don't know what you know until you know.
That's
Now
great. That's good. I love to hear that.
Yeah. So the customer challenges, we know that getting, better communication is the goal, and that they are challenged by a number of things throughout the organization. So I know that you and your team have been working on and have developed some pretty cool solutions. So talk with me a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, I think, when we think about deploying a tool like Grammarly, really any kind of one of these newer AI tools where there's still such an open-ended set of possibilities. What we get from end users using the tool, they often say something like, "Oh my gosh, I couldn't live without this tool." But a lot of leaders, a lot of heads of IT, CFOs who are managing all these tools that they have to ask the question, "Is it worth it? Am I getting my return?" And so we decided to not leave it up to the each of our customers to try to figure out if it's worth it, and instead come up with some metrics that are very easy to inspect, very easy to understand, to be able to say, we'll help you to see the ROI. And if the ROI is not there, well, let's talk more about what problems we could solve for you. But if it is there, let's make sure you understand it and can see it and can also dig into it to better understand. And so we just recently released a couple things. One's called the Effective Communication Score. This actually gives organizations the opportunity to sort of score themselves as they start to use Grammarly versus other Grammarly enterprise customers. So you can kind of benchmark along a bunch of different vectors, sort of how clear and correct is my writing, how concise is my writing, how inclusive is my language, if that's a goal for your organization, how on brand is my external communication, because you can configure Grammarly in all the ways to make it sound more like your company, like your brand. And so you can look at us sort of across these different look at yourself across these different dimensions. This is just real data of your employees using Grammarly and comparing it to kind of best in class for your industry. And we also have the ability to kind of look at employees in your organization who might be using the free version of Grammarly that they've brought to work without all of our advanced enterprise features. And we're able to sort of benchmark what's the impact of using Grammarly enterprise versus not using Grammarly at all, versus your peers who are using Grammarly, or versus those employees who are bringing Grammarly to work in a free, sort of limited way. And the results are actually have been pretty amazing. We have rolled this out to a few dozen beta customers, going live actually in the next week to all of our enterprise customers. And with our few dozen beta customers that have seen this, it's uncovered some really interesting learnings. And it also has a lot of proactive suggestions of how you could improve. So even our own use of Grammarly internally at Grammarly, of course, our 1,000+ employees use Grammarly every day. We learned some really interesting things about ways we can improve actually writing, improving our style guide to be more on brand in external communications, to support our customer facing teams a little better. And we actually implemented some improvements based on what we saw. And now we're seeing even a bump in some of those numbers. So this is really just about putting more data in the hands of leaders to really understand, is this tool working? And if it is, can I learn something? Can I actually improve my employees' communication, whether it's what we call high stakes communication, which is external facing with customers, with clients, or even low stakes communication, which is the constant back and forths of messages with internal employees. Improving both of those, actually, it turns out, is hard, but can have really big impact, especially since we're all spending 88% of our day, just doing those sorts of communication tasks together with others.
It's really interesting. I love the fact, treating yourself as sort of client zero, I think is so important. And I see this a lot from technology companies, and, we're not just talking the talk. We're actually walking the walk. We're using this internally. We're measuring our own effectiveness and all of that sort of thing. I think that's really important and really cool to hear. I know that being able to really quantify an enterprise investment in AI is it is it. That is what everybody's focused on right now.
Yeah.
So talk with me a little bit about how it's one thing to say, our writing is better, we're more on brand, or that sort of thing. But how are you addressing the specific challenges that organizations face when it comes to measuring the business impact of AI tools like Grammarly?
Yeah. Great. Yeah. So we believe, like I said, we believe strongly it's on us as a vendor to help prove that case, not just because it's good for business, but it's because we want people to be happy with the tool. We want them to see and understand the value. So along with the effective communication score, we actually just rolled out something that I'm not aware of anybody else who is doing this. We rolled out what we're calling a Grammarly impact assessment that comes with an ROI report at the end of it. And the way it works is that a prospective customer, and we've done a number of these, we have about a half dozen of these under our belt and many more in the pipeline. A prospective customer can actually A/B test Grammarly. So they can run a version of Grammarly with a small group of their employees that's fully on, has all the capabilities. We'll work with you to sort of set up, your customized style rules and other things. And then a set of employees get a version of Grammarly that basically is not actually providing any assistance. It's installed. The employee clicks on it, it says, your IT administrator is rolling out Grammarly. I'll be available soon. And they can run a multi-week test where they take maybe 100 employees in a group and 100 employees in a group, and then just look at the numbers along with us. In fact, we've had some of those clients actually end up giving us some downstream metrics like customer satisfaction scores of their customer support team, or first reply times for their customer support team, or email engagement rates for employees that were using Grammarly to write marketing content emails versus not. And so we sort of work with you to measure this for a few weeks and look at those two cohorts of employees and create not just, how accurate and effective or on brand was your communication, but what was actually the downstream effect of that on the business metrics that you want Grammarly to move. And by the way, I think this is really going to be important for anyone buying, AI software, probably any software moving forward, is being able to put a vendor to the test like that. Like, show me the money. We're no longer, budgets are tightening. People are trying to consolidate those 250 tools down to fewer tools. And so we wanted to get ahead of it and just say, look, we will create the case with real data. And maybe that test will come back and show that it wasn't a big difference. So far, it's in the, like I said, the half dozen or so that we've done. We've been pretty amazed at the results. 16 to 20% increase in CSAT scores when you're using Grammarly versus not. We think that's just because the quality of communication is higher. The emails or chats are much clearer. You're really able to put the best foot forward. We've also seen things like, an increase in the amount of typed words per minute when employees are using Grammarly, indicating that Grammarly is making them more efficient, not just more accurate, but actually more efficient and productive at writing. And we've even seen something like a major drop, 35% reduction in copy and pasting, because Grammarly is just working where you're working. You don't have to go to some other AI tool and then copy and paste. It's just working alongside of you. And so we think there's these real measurable productivity improvements, as well as these downstream metrics. And I think that's the future, by the way, of how enterprise software is going to be purchased. It's show me the money, show me the return on the investment before I'm willing to really go all in and spend, buy 10,000 seats for all of my employees. I want to know that it's going to work for me, and I want to be able to measure it now and then on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and I think that for me, this is where I see Grammarly being so differentiated, because I remember, oh my gosh, it's been a few months ago, but I remember seeing something about Google, rolling out something AI assistant, and that I use G Suite for Business, so I'm a Google customer. But I remember seeing a headline going, Google's doing this. Is this a Grammarly killer? And I'm looking at the solution that they're talking about, and it in no way compares to what it is that Grammarly does in any way, shape, or form. And I think that buyers and users are smart, and we're seeing that, okay, Perplexity says it can do this, and Google Gemini says it can do this, and this one, Microsoft and Microsoft's capabilities are great, but sometimes the pricing involved is crazy. But the reality of it is, I think this is a key differentiator, because I've yet to see anybody be able to point to specific ROI of showing the differentiators and I've seen some of your data. I've seen some comparisons of that A/B testing. And I'll include a visual of that when I write about this to our viewers and listeners. But, that is a deal maker in my mind. I mean, when you can really look at, okay, historically, we did this A/B test, and this is what our data on your organization showed, that's showing me the money.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate it. And when we talk to prospects, some of them they're like, are you really going to do this? Like, let us sort of see if it actually works. And our point is, like, of course. I mean, if it doesn't work for you, you're going to find out eventually, and we're just going to have a harder conversation down the line. So why don't we? It also, by the way, forces our prospective customer to really be clear on what their goals are, which I think is a big pitfall with AI adoption right now. People adopt a tool because it seems interesting, everybody's sort of using it, but they aren't really clear on what they're trying to get out of it. So there actually is a magic to it as well, which is that it actually forces the buyer to say, hey, what am I trying to get out of Grammarly? Is it making my employees more effective in external communication? If so, how would I measure that? How could I be sure? And so it forces them to come to us with, here's what I'm looking to measure. We can design then the test to make sure we can measure it, not just once, but on an ongoing basis. And then, we really have to live up to it. And I think that is, like I said, it's just an exciting, as all of us who think about buying tools and spending our own money, our company's money on these tools, I think it's a really exciting change and reframe of how we should think about the benefit of these various tools. And I think it's a really unique offering. It's been something that's been very fun for us to build and to experiment with and to put out there in the market.
And what I love about, you said customers are surprised, you're really going to, let us see this and show this. But here's, I think, another differentiator. Grammarly isn't a startup. Grammarly isn't a new company that just came on the scene in the last year or two or whatever. This is this is a well-entrenched 15-year-old company who's been delivering solutions for businesses for a very long time. You know what I'm saying? And so that credibility, I'm not selling snake oil. And I think that that is really important as well. And being able to just step up and show, here's the value prop right here. And we're proud of it. I think that's very compelling.
Yeah. But yeah, we call ourselves like the OG AI agent. I mean,
Yeah,
we've been your little AI partner since before a lot of people knew AI existed.
right.
And we use AI to tailor the things you see. We learn your writing style. We
Yeah.
learn how you communicate. We know what's most impactful for you. And that personalization, that user experience, it's hard to do that right. And it's been really fun to be able
Yeah.
to continue to bring that 15-year legacy forward. But now with a whole new set of capabilities and
Yeah.
tools, thanks to LLMs,
Yeah.
it's just a really exciting
It is.
time.
It's incredibly exciting. I know. And again, what do you expect from a couple of tech nerds, but, geeking out about this, but it really is an exciting time, especially to be immersed in all things AI. So I know this is exciting for customers. And can you share with me, and I know we're still in early stage and have been doing some beta testing, I can say that. Can you talk with me a little bit, give me a real world example or two of where you've seen Grammarly's tools make a measurable difference in a customer success?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say one that I think is really exciting. I alluded to it a little bit before. Is we rolled out Grammarly and a test to a subset of a offshore customer support team. So they're doing most of their customer support in English, but outside of the U.S., most of the employees there were English language learners or English as an additional language. And so we rolled out Grammarly to that group and saw two things happen. One, when we did the sort of post proof of concept survey, we got a lot of, like, please never take this away from me. I need this tool, which was super fun. Like, that's the human side of it. And then there's the data side of it, which we saw very clear results. There's a bunch of metrics that matter if you're running a customer support organization. They're pretty much the same for everyone. How fast am I at replying the first time? What's my total time replying? What's my throughput? How many tickets or cases a day can an agent do? And then most importantly, what's the customer satisfaction with
Right.
those? And we were able to show meaningful differences in the group that had Grammarly than the group that didn't in all those metrics. So that's one case. Another one, a lot of marketing teams use Grammarly, even though maybe a lot of us think, just like you said, we're great writers, or this is our profession. I write content for a living. I don't need Grammarly. But having that extra support of making sure you're on brand, making sure you're getting that extra, here's how best practices for writing a blog article
Yeah.
or something, you just getting that extra support. And so we've worked with a number of marketing departments to really roll out this customization system. And I think on that, the success story is really seeing, just as you mentioned, seeing these individuals become kind of converted to actually this Grammarly tool really can help me
Yeah.
write my first draft, go from notes to a full article, rough sketches to a full article.
Right.
Or if I've written this, it still sounds like me in the end, but it's been improved. It sounds a bit more like my company. It's using a bit more accurate. I didn't mess up that stat that we have this many customers. Now we have this many customers. You can configure Grammarly to sort of keep you honest with all that stuff. And so I think seeing those teams kind of become converted is really has been fun.
Yeah, and I will say this specific to marketing, my experience has been that, the shorter a piece of content, whether it's a call to action or some little short message, the shorter it is, the more difficult it is to write. And so being able to have that assist, I think would be incredibly valuable as part of a marketing team for sure.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Writing fewer words is hard. That is very true. Mark Twain was right about that. I would have written less, but I didn't have the time. I mean, it
Yeah.
is it is true. Now you can say I would have written less, but I didn't have Grammarly, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
I like it. I
yeah.
like it. So, Luke, when can customers expect to get access to and begin using these tools?
Yeah, the effective communication score is in a open beta with a few dozen customers today, and going
Okay.
fully live on January 31st for all of
Okay.
our enterprise customers. And then the ROI report and the impact assessment, right? That A/B test, that's available now if for prospective customers who are interested in putting Grammarly to the test. Our team's more than happy to engage with how to set that up for them. So that's ready to go now.
So there's every reason to get that request in. All right, Luke, as we wrap this conversation, I know that Grammarly recently acquired Coda, which was announced just a couple weeks ago. Talk with me, if you would, about the value that Coda's productivity suite and existing customer relations bring to Grammarly, and share with me, if you would, a little bit about your thoughts on what's ahead there.
Yeah, so for those who don't know Coda, Coda is really this really innovative platform for building, docs like a wiki hub. But these docs are so much more than docs. They become kind of applications where teams can run their whole kind of process for maybe doing a quarterly planning or annual planning in this super doc that has tables and it has integrations with all of these systems. Revenue teams use it to look at pipeline and forecasts that they pull from Salesforce and other tools. So it's this really powerful document and really app platform. But what we learned as we were talking to them, we have some shared investors, and we started to sort of communicate with the Coda team about maybe doing a partnership, because Grammarly is this thing that works everywhere your employees work, and Coda is building this really interesting collaboration and workflow space. But where we actually learn is we're coming at the same end goal from two different directions, which is that we really believe the future is that actually a lot of these processes that we follow today actually get kind of wrapped up into the buzzword of the day is agents, but these little helpers that follow you around while you work and help you get workplace tasks done. Sometimes they do it autonomously. Once you get to trust them, of course, LLMs
Yeah.
still make mistakes, but we are getting better and better at really building these sort of autonomous capabilities. And Coda was going in that direction, kind of thinking about how you might have weekly updates across your team completely automated by bringing in all of the knowledge and information across all of your teams, creating an update and pushing it out to everyone. And Grammarly was coming at it from the other way, as this agent that follows you around while you type. And what if we did more and more and took on more of your day-to-day tasks? And so the two combined companies, we really think it's an exciting opportunity to kind of become leaders in the AI agents and AI applications space, really helping, just democratize the creation of these little simple or maybe even complex agents that do more of your day-to-day tasks alongside you, and eventually they can do it for you, to, like I said in the beginning, really realize the value of what AI can do, not just to add another layer to everything we're doing, but to actually start to simplify some of the things that we just don't need to be spending our time on every day, right? Summarizing action items after a meeting, sending them out to everyone, tracking those action items. LLMs are fantastic at doing that. And so building an agent platform is really where we're going. And we're pretty excited
Yeah.
to see what the two companies can do together.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. And so really to me, it's kind of like the marriage of effective business communication and AI powered productivity all wrapped up in one.
That's it.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
going
it.
to steal that line. That's a great line.
All right. Well, this has been amazing. It's clear that we are quickly moving beyond the AI is great conversation and addressing not only the growing enterprise demand for AI powered productivity solutions, but also that very real need at the enterprise level to be able to track and measure the impact of our AI investments. Grammarly's effective communication score and ROI report appear to be designed to do just that. And then what's ahead with the Coda acquisition is even more exciting. Luke Behnke, head of enterprise product at Grammarly, thank you so much for joining me today. I am so looking forward to watching Grammarly's continued evolution and the power that Coda acquisition adds to the mix for customers. Thank you again for spending time with me. I so appreciate it. And that's a wrap for this episode of The Age of AI. I'm your host, Shelly Kramer, principal analyst here at Kramer&Co. Thanks so much for joining us today. And if you've not yet hit that subscribe button, we'd love for you to do that. And we'll see you here next time.